+333, or hit me with where's Tiffany Dover if you can hear me properly. I'd appreciate it. Hang on, let me get my coffee. I had some technical problems. Yeah, it was very serious technical problems. That's why I'm late. I'm so sorry about that. I had to pee and make coffee. So sorry, dude. Mm, Let's see. No +33. Can you guys hear me? That's very important. Can you hear me? Hit me with a +333 if you can hear me properly. Mm, yeah. Well, hit me with a +333 if you can hear me properly. There we go. Okay. Or Tiffany Dover. Always remember Tiffany Dover. If you don't know who Tiffany Dover is, look her up. That's what God invented Google for, you know? Thank you very much. I appreciate it. How many people are here today? 500 people. Wow. Oh, wow. A super chat. Thank you very much. Look, I'll be frank with you. I appreciate the super chats, but I'm not going to be able to read them because I got a lot of fish to fry. And I greatly appreciate it. And maybe what I'll do, I think I'll do this. I'll do like a special stream just to read the super chats and thank you all. That's very kind of you. But right now, I've got like big fish to fry. Um, as you know, a couple of days ago, I did a live stream on this channel. And to tell you the truth, what happened was that I was extremely frazzled when I did it. I did it on Thursday afternoon. It is Saturday as I'm recording this or doing this live stream. And on Thursday, I was just I was just really shocked because the events of the last couple of days had really overwhelmed me. Because in a 48-hour period, I had been kicked out of a hotel in the middle of a war. I'd made my way from Kiev to, out of the frying pan into the fire of Kharkov, where there was a raging battle and still is a raging battle between Ukrainian forces and Russian forces. And on Wednesday morning, I arrived Tuesday morning, and I arrived, and as I walked away from the train station, it was like the last man on earth. There was nobody around. It was the most eerie feeling. And that was Tuesday morning, the day of my birthday, as a matter of fact, my 54th birthday. And then on, what was it, Wednesday around 1 p.m., I saw my first airstrike, which was quite a shock. It was an airstrike against a target in the city, in Kharkov. I saw it from my window. It was an incredible sight. And then later on that day, in the afternoon, some thugs came looking for me. Mm. Because what has happened is that over the past last weekend or so, a video I made went viral because a Russian channel repackaged some of the content and did a 6-minute video, and it went viral all over Russia, all over Ukraine and Poland. I mean, it really went around the world. Apparently, it was even shown in South America and whatnot, And so yeah, all of a sudden I was a viral sensation. And the weird thing about being a viral sensation is that you have no idea that it's happening. Okay, I mean, everybody else is like, "Oh my God, this video is going viral," but you're sort of like at the eye of the hurricane. You have no idea because, of course, in my own case, I don't read or speak Russian, and so I had no idea about this video. And yeah, everybody's saying that it just went viral and all the rest of it, millions of views and what have you. Very flattering, but it didn't affect me at all. No, it's just this random thing that happened to somebody else practically. Although everybody looks at me now because of this video. Anyway, the point is that because of this video, that was not critical of Ukraine. I insist, I have never been critical or disrespectful towards Ukraine or the Ukrainian people or the Ukrainian armed forces. But I gave a realistic assessment of what was going on. And this realistic assessment really pissed off a lot of people. A lot of people in Ukraine and a lot of people who are quite shady. Let's put it like that. And so on Wednesday, some individuals came looking for me at my home. Mhm. And they banged on my door quite a bit. They really, really wanted me, apparently. But by sheer luck, I wasn't there. And because of this, and I was warned by people there, and because of it, I have gone underground. I'm in a new location. It's a safe location. The great good fortune I have is that my children are not with me, which breaks my heart. It completely shatters me not to be with my children. I miss them so much, and you have no idea how much I miss them. And whenever I think about them, I feel really low. Mm. But the great good thing is that they are far from me. They are very safe, and so these goons will not, ever find them. And that is a blessing. Because these goons are the kinds of people who would do horrifying things to small children, which is what I have. My children are 7 and 9. This is not a great secret, and it doesn't really matter what their age is, other than the fact that to emphasize that they are innocent children, and these mad dogs of the Zelensky regime would be happy to inflict horrifying things on them, because that's the kind of individuals that they are. They are mad dogs. I have always stood apart from Ukrainian politics. I have always considered myself a guest in Ukraine, and therefore, like a good guest, I think it's wrong for me to interfere in the internal politics of the country, let alone interfere, even have an opinion. Because quite frankly, I am a guest. And so for me to be spouting off some opinion or other would be completely wrong. I mean, I don't go to your house and tell you how to, fix the furniture in your house. No, that's your business. And if you invite me to your home, I am thankful to you, but I will never say a word about what I think of your furniture or decor, because that is your business, not mine. And that's how I've always felt insofar as politics, whenever I live in a city, in a country rather, that I'm not a citizen of. Because it's just wrong. It's wrong to talk about the politics of a country where you are a guest in that country. But circumstances have changed, obviously. And quite frankly, the fact that I was clearly targeted by government goons because of a realistic assessment of the military and political situation of Ukraine versus Russia at that time, that because of this realistic assessment, that clearly meant no offense to the Ukrainian people, the Ukrainian government, the Ukrainian nation, or the Ukrainian armed forces. Because of this realistic, even-handed assessment, goons that, quite frankly, are either members of the government or aligned with the government, because as I will show you, the government, the regime of Zelensky, the current president of Ukraine, well, he has aligned himself with goons, with militiamen, with literal neo-Nazis. And when I say literal neo-Nazis, I'm not like one of these liberals in the United States or Europe who says that everybody's a Nazi, who says that, call me by my pronouns, or, I'll call you a Nazi. No. I'm talking about real neo-Nazis. I'm talking about men, individuals who are fascists, and proud of it, and say so. That's the thing that people don't seem to understand. See, the real Nazis, the real neo-Nazis, the real fascists, they don't have a problem telling you right to your face that they are neo-Nazis, they are fascists, and they have no problem whatsoever carrying out the most brutal repression if they see fit, if they think that you are not on their side. And I am telling you, over the last 2 days, I have seen videos, I have seen reports, first-hand accounts, verified accounts of the most despicable acts that these fascist militias have carried out. And I suppose that in my own case, I kept my head in the sand because I kept insisting, I'm a guest, I should be a good guest, a polite guest, and never say anything and never stick my nose in anybody else's business. But if these people decide to stick their nose into my business, come to my home, to find me, to take me away, and perhaps do God knows what to me. I mean, killing me would be, frankly, the least of it, because these are animals, and I have seen the videos of them carrying out the most grotesque tortures and executions on people who did not agree with them, on people who thought different as they did. And these are the people who are aligned with the Zelensky regime. You have to understand that when you support Zelensky, you are supporting actual neo-Nazis, actual fascists, actual torturers, murderers, thieves, thugs. And don't give me this stuff that, oh, you're a Putin apologist then. Oh, you're against Zelensky, so you must be a Putin apologist. Fuck you. I don't apologize for anybody. Anybody else's business is their business. But when I see evil, I have to point it out. And if that, by simply pointing out the evil of these people, that makes me a Putin apologist, fine. Yeah, fine. I will ignore your criticism if you call me a Putin apologist. You know why? Because I will realize that you who called me a Putin apologist for pointing out the evil of the Zelensky regime and its militias and thugs, you are allied to that fascism, that torture, that murder, that thievery, that thuggishness. So you go ahead and call me a Putin apologist if you see fit. But that will only confirm to me that you are as despicable as these fascists. And I'm going to tell you something. I know a little bit about fascism. I lived under the government, the regime of Augusto Pinochet in Chile. And I am telling you that these people, the Azov battalion and the other militias that are aligned with the Zelensky regime, frankly, they make Pinochet look like, the paradigm of democracy, for crying out loud. They make him look like a Boy Scout. And I lived in the Pinochet regime. I saw it up close and personal, and I know what I'm talking about. These thugs of the Zelensky regime are just despicable. They are beyond the pale. And I'm going to say something else. It's not an issue that they came looking for me. That's not the issue. The issue is the things that they have done. The things that they have done are despicable. And I'm going to talk about those things that they have done in this live stream. I'm going to talk about specifics, first and last names of their victims, and the things that these pigs have done. But I'm also going to talk about Zelensky, who this man really is. Zelensky is a puppet. And those of you who don't understand this, those who think that he is an actual president with actual power, you are naive. You are naive, or you are blind, or you are part of the cabal that knows perfectly well that he's a puppet, and you are pushing a narrative for your masters, for the people who pay you to lie. I'm trying to get a hold of myself because I'm extremely upset. The funny thing is that I'm not so upset about what almost happened to me. I think it's kind of cool. I mean, damn, man. My life has been like one big adventure. I've lived under Pinochet's dictatorship. I got an Ivy League degree. I've been a screenwriter in Hollywood and a published novelist with Big Five publishers in New York. I've crossed all of North America on my Land Rover with my dog. Spent 6 months circumnavigating, I guess, circumnavigating the North American continent, from New York City to Boston to Toronto to Yellowknife to Fairbanks, then all the way up to the north coast of Alaska, the North Shore of Alaska rather, then to Anchorage, Juneau, then Bellingham, and drove all the way around the West Coast and across Texas and across the Deep South, and then up through the Carolinas and back to New York City. I've done that. I've lived through an 8.6 earthquake, and it happened to me when I was on the 15th floor of a building. God damn, that's when I thought I was really going to die, okay? That was scary, okay? And here I am in Ukraine, in the middle of this Russian invasion of Ukraine. Yeah, so, targeted for assassination by, right-wing goons. Not even right-wing goons, because they're not properly right-wing, because they don't even have an ideology. They're just crazy people. They are just crazy people, and you have to understand what has happened. And it's going to take some explaining on my part. And so I urge you to be patient and understand that this has a lot of nuance. It is not Putin bad, Zelensky good. No, because life is not like that. You have to be an adult. I mean, what have I said in all of my CRP content? That you have to be an adult and you have to understand that everything has nuance, everything has complexity. And the fact of the matter is that there are no good guys and bad guys. There are simply people with interests and priorities and goals who try to achieve them as best they can. And sometimes they use noble methods, and sometimes they use methods that are low and despicable. And that's the truth. There are no good guys and bad guys. Everybody thinks of himself as a good guy. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure that Hitler thought he was a great guy. Yeah. Stalin too. Pol Pot must have thought that he was just a saint come down to earth, for crying out loud. All of these people thought they were good people. Everyone thinks that he's a good person. And in fact, many times, many people who seem to be evil turn out to be quite good. And other people who seem to be quite good on closer examination turn out to be despicable, low, evil, wrong. And you have to point it out. But you cannot reduce everyone to this black hats and white hats nonsense. You have to be an adult. You have to be nuanced. You have to dig in and understand a situation. How am I doing, by the way? There was a little thing on my phone, an alert that might have thrown me off. So hit me with a Tiffany Dover if everything is copacetic. I'd appreciate it. Let me just set myself up here. Everything copacetic? Tiffany Dover, great. Tiffany Dover. And if you guys don't know who Tiffany Dover is, please look her up. She's a victim of a despicable act, as far as I'm concerned. Also, another thing. If I wink out, I'm going to try to get back on the stream. It's not that my building got bombed, okay? What happened was that the internet went on the fritz momentarily, okay? And if I go out definitively, do not think the worst. I appreciate so many of the kind words that people have said to me. I truly do. I think it's really, I hate to use this word, but it's the truth. It's heartwarming when people say such nice things in the comment section. I so appreciate it. When people thank me for the information that I'm providing, the perspective that I'm providing, it really means a great deal to me. And I'm going to tell you this now, and I'm not going to pussy out and cry like a little bitch after this, okay? And after this, I'm just going to treat you like, fucking chat, okay? Okay. I really appreciate it, though, so that you know. I truly, truly do. Okay. So let's get started. Now, Volodymyr Zelensky is born in 1978, and he is an actor, and he's a very successful actor. He is he specializes in comedy. He's a good-looking fella, hard-working fella. There are videos of him, and people have been mocking him in different platforms, saying that, oh, look, he's dressed up in, in drag and doing a gay dance or whatever. No, that's just a comedy bit. That's kind of silly. He was a professional actor who became a politician. Now, this is perfectly respectable. I mean, Ronald Reagan was a professional actor who became a politician. We don't have a problem with him now, do we? Of course not. See, just because you decide to change careers and do something different with your life, that's perfectly fine and perfectly respectable. The problem is how this happened. You see, Zelensky was an actor, a successful actor, before he was hired in 2015 for a show called Servant of the People. In this show, he played a school teacher who gives a rant on video over the corruption in Ukraine, and this video goes viral. And by circumstances, the comedy circumstances of any television series, he becomes president of Ukraine. And that seems perfectly innocent, right? Right? Well, you start digging in a little bit deeper, and you start to realize that this is all kinds of astroturf. Now, for those of you who are foreign, or who are not American, rather, sorry about that, because I'm not in the United States. I'm in Ukraine, and so. For those of you who are not American, you see, there is an expression in English called a grassroots movement. That is a movement that comes from the bottom and that rises organically, like grass shooting up. That's a grassroots movement. But there's a term called astroturf movement, or astroturfed. That means when a movement appears to be organic, that rises up from the people, but in fact it's paid by moneyed interests. And it comes from the fabric called astroturf, which is used in American football to cover the fields. American football was originally played on grass, But with modern stadiums and whatnot, they basically put this carpet of AstroTurf. It's a synthetic material. It bounces somewhat, and it's where professional football players play their game. And of course, AstroTurf is made of plastic. It's manufactured. It's not real. Okay, you don't grow AstroTurf, right? You make it. You make it with money, and that's the point. An AstroTurfed movement is a movement that has been made with money. Now, the person who made Zelensky, the person who is his puppeteer, who pulls the strings on his life, on his existence, his political career, who has appointed all of the members of his cabinet, or has not appointed them, but he has been the one to decide who are the members of Zelensky's cabinet, is a man that you have probably never heard of. His name is Igor Kolomoisky. I have a difficult time pronouncing that name, and if I didn't disrespect him so much, I would say, I don't mean to disrespect you by mispronouncing your name, but to tell you the truth, I find Igor Kolomoisky the most despicable piece of shit that I've ever come across, because he really is. The man is, at this time, he's 59 years old, just 5 years older than me, so roughly of my generation. And he is a billionaire oligarch, and he lives in Switzerland. And he has 3 passports. Now, his passports are Ukrainian, where he was born in Dnipropetrovsk, Israel, and Cyprus. And the kind of man he is he has said that, well, in Ukraine, it's illegal for a Ukrainian citizen to have 2 passports. But he has said that it's not illegal for him to have 3 passports, because there's no law saying that it's illegal to have 3 passports. You see? You see the way that this man operates? Mm-hmm. He goes by the letter of the law, even as it completely violates the spirit of the law. Mm-hmm. And in fact, in his business dealings, he has used physical violence. He has, on his payroll, militias, goons, thugs, and this is a known fact. This is not me making something up. This is known. He is the man who has bankrolled the so-called Azov Battalion. The Azov Battalion, right now, as we are speaking, is fighting a fight to the death with the Russian army in the port of Mariupol. I think, I can't pronounce these names. I am so sorry. But they are fighting a battle to the death there, and you can look it up. You don't have to take my word for it. By the way, nothing that I say, don't take my word for it. If you don't believe anything that I tell you, look it up yourself in Google. It's right there in Google. It's right there in Wikipedia. What I'm going to tell you about Kolomoisky is right on his Wikipedia entry. And by the way, if I were you, I'd go to his Wikipedia entry ASAP and archive it. Because pretty soon, as more scrutiny befalls him, he's going to have his people, the people that a rich man always surrounds himself with, his little stooges, his little suck-ups, his little bootlickers. He'll have his bootlickers wipe away everything on his Wikipedia page. And the man is rich enough that he can probably get in touch with the Wikipedia people and have some sort of lock put on his Wikipedia page and scrub it away and make it all nice and shiny and clean. But the guy is dirty as a shit-stained mattress. I'll tell you that right now. Dirt that can never be rubbed away. He started out as an engineer, and with the collapse of the Soviet Union, he made his fortune, basically by strong-arming, literally strong-arming, business opponents and other people to amass his fortune, which is in the billions. Now, Ihor Kolomoisky, as I said in the previous stream, and a lot of the material here I'm kind of repeating from the previous stream, but I'm going to add a lot. I'm going to add a lot in terms of the political repression that Kolomoisky is responsible for. But for those of you who have not watched that previous live stream, I have to fill in some of this background so that you understand what I'm talking about. To those of you who have already seen this material, I'm sorry, you'll just have to be a little bit patient. But it's important, and so that's why I'm going to go cover the same ground a second time so that I can cover it and then add a little bit more. Okay? Okay, thank you very much for understanding. Now, Kolomoisky, he used thugs, militia, call them what you will, bodyguards, private security, private military contractors, paid muscle, basically. He used it to advance his business interests. because he's the kind of man who does not believe in playing fair. He does not believe in civil society. He does not believe in the rule of law. He believes in the law of survival of the fittest, but beyond that, it's the might, the right of might. The more strength you have, the more muscle you have, paid though it may be, the more you can get. And he has used this muscle very effectively to become an extremely rich individual. He's stolen his money. I mean, it's all stolen. In some cases, he has literally threatened the lives of people who owned companies and stole their companies, threatening their lives and the lives of their family. That's the kind of piece of shit this man is. Igor Kolomoisky. Look up that name. Don't take my word for it. I'm just pointing you in the direction so that you can look for yourself. Okay? Okay. So Kolomoisky, he's a very smart individual. I mean, these men, they are despicable and disgusting, but they're smart. And I'll tell you something, as an individual with a fairly high IQ point, there have been times, the temptation, to act in ways that are low. Because you figure, well, I'm smart enough to do it. And if I really wanted to be ruthless enough, I could get a lot. And I could fuck over other people and be a piece of shit and get what I want. And I think that every man comes to that moment when he has to decide what sort of man does he want to be. And he decides on one path or another. He chose one path, and Kolomoisky clearly chose another because he is dirty as they come. But of course, he is an incredibly intelligent man, and as all intelligent men, and I can confess that the same has happened to me, he is a man of extraordinary vanity, and he believes that he should have more power, because the power he has is not enough. And he ran for president in 2014. He set up his own party, ran for president, and failed. He got something like 2.5% of the vote, of the national vote of Ukraine. And so what did he do after 2014? Very simple. He set up his own scheme to puppeteer somebody into the presidency. And it was a very clever scheme. And you're going to see as I describe it that it was a scheme. You see, Kolomoisky owns 1+1 Media, which is a very large media conglomerate in Ukraine. It has television channels and all the rest of it. And so he or his people created a show, Servant of the People, as I mentioned before. Servant of the People was a comedy program about a school teacher, as I said, who in desperation and anger at the corruption in Ukraine, which is endemic and which is caused by men like Kolomoisky, because they exploit this corruption and make it grow even larger. Corruption is a cancer, and this man is a cancer cell on the soul of Ukraine. Anyway, the television show Servant of the People, Kolomoisky, or his company, produced it. They produced it, and of course, Kolomoisky, who owns a number of different enterprises, he astroturfed the show. He made sure that it got all the right media attention, that there was lots of advertisement for it and all the rest of it. And he personally chose Zelensky to be the main character, the presidential character, the school teacher who becomes president. And in the plot of this television show, the president in the television show, he wants Ukraine to join the European Union and NATO. Now, this is really odd. Why, this TV show and why that obsession? Well, because you see, Kolomoisky is a man who hates Russia. He hates it with a passion. For long ethnic ancestral reasons that are too complicated to explain in this video, he hates Russia. And he's made that very, very explicit. He's supported all sorts of moves and laws and movements to curtail the rights of ethnic Russians and Russian language speakers here in Ukraine. He really hates them. And it is an irrational hatred, but he does. The only difference is that he has the money to actually create the conditions where ethnic Russians are harmed. And that's the truth. And so He financed this show. One Plus One Media produced the show, Servant of the People, and they picked Zelensky as the character playing the president. Now, Zelensky had no political experience whatsoever and no political interest whatsoever. None whatsoever. And what happened next was that over the next 3 to 4 years, the show continued. 3 years. The show continued. It became more and more popular because Kolomoisky put more and more money into the advertisement of the show, trying to astroturf it into popularity, and bring Zelensky as the candidate for president, for actual president. He was playing a TV character on this show. He had been hired as an actor, as a comedic actor, which is what he was, to play the role of president. And what happened was that Kolomoisky started building him up as a potential actual candidate. And in 2018, Kolomoisky created the party called Servant of the People, the same name as a TV show. And this party, Servant of the People, its objectives were for Ukraine to join NATO and Ukraine to join the European Union. Now, Ukraine for a long time has wanted to join the European Union because it has this mistaken belief that if it joins the European Union, everything will magically become beautiful, that everything will magically turn into the Netherlands. I lived in the Netherlands, and I can tell you it's one of the most gorgeous countries in the world, and it works flawlessly. It works like a Swiss watch. It's unbelievable. But the thing is, merely by joining the European Union, your country is not going to become Netherlands. No, it demands a great deal of work and effort and all the rest of it. But the Ukrainian people, as all people, want to hear nice things, and sometimes they vote with hope in their hearts, even though they know better in their hearts. So anyway, Zelensky, as actual presidential candidate, all of a sudden started taking off. And you see, the media campaign tried to blur the difference between Zelensky, the character on the TV show, and Zelensky, the presidential candidate. And that was a deliberate strategy. And so that people felt that he could actually be president. And again, it seems as if I'm putting down Ukrainian people when I say that they believed it. But frankly, all populations tend to believe in foolish things that politicians promise them and later regret it. I mean, look no further than the United States, Great Britain, France, because people are like that. Because on a bell curve of IQ points, 100 is the average. What does that imply? It means that half the population is below average. Now, doesn't it? Yeah, that's what happens. And that bottom half, they get your vote just as good as yours. Yeah, that's what basically happens. And that is an unfortunate reality of a democracy. And these people are very easily manipulated. And it's not just, the people on the left side of the bell curve. No. It's also the people on the right side of the bell curve who have hope in their hearts, because we all have hope in our hearts. And when somebody tells us pleasing lies, they are so pleasing that we tend to believe them. And that's what happened. Okay? And by saying this, I am not belittling the Ukrainian people, because all human beings of all races, all creeds, all nations, we all have hope in our hearts. And when somebody tells us pretty lies, we find it extraordinarily difficult to say, no, that's not true. You're telling me a lie. Because we don't want to believe that it's a lie. We want to believe that it's possible. And that's a human flaw that we have. Okay? And these low men exploited that human flaw that we all have and convinced the Ukrainian people to put Zelensky in the office of the presidency. That's how he was astroturfed. Now, Zelensky was the president, but the real power was Kolomoisky from his chateau in Switzerland, because that's where he lives, in Switzerland. He does not live in Ukraine. He lives in Switzerland, and from Switzerland, he was the one who appointed Zelensky's cabinet. Or, again, I'm making the mistake. It's not that he appointed them, but the president officially appoints a member of the cabinet. But Kolomoisky was the man who selected the cabinet. And he selected his friends, and he surrounded the Zelensky regime with thugs, with violent men. And because Zelensky was a puppet of Kolomoisky, he put more money into the Azov battalion, more money into the neo-Nazi movements. And this is the bizarre thing. You see, Kolomoisky, Zelensky, and roughly 2/3 of Zelensky's cabinet are Jewish. And so it's just bizarre that Kolomoisky would fund a neo-Nazi group that one would assume would be anti-Semitic. But you see, muscle is muscle. And what Kolomoisky clearly wanted was muscle. He didn't care if they were neo-Nazis. And they are, by the way. And they're avowedly neo-Nazis. They don't go around pussyfooting about it. They're like, yeah, I'm a Nazi. That's what they say. And I'm sure somebody's going to clip that and use that as a meme against me, but I don't care. That's how they act. That's how these people are. So, right. Kolomoisky funds Zelensky's campaign. He wins the election, and it was dirty. By the way, it was a dirty election, because Ukraine has been exceptionally corrupt for quite a long time because there was corruption in the 90s. But what happened was that a lot of Western powers, Western leaders, people like the Biden family, for instance, found out that Ukraine was essentially a piggy bank. They could go to Ukraine, and for some empty promises, they could get a lot of money. I mean, Hunter Biden got a couple of $1 million a year or something, or more, as salary for a no-show job as a director at Burisma, the Ukrainian energy company. See? And lots of other European and British politicians, Canadians too, they got their slice out of Ukraine. It was their own private piggy bank. A corruption pushed forward by the oligarchs of Ukraine. And Kolomoisky is, it seems to me, the most brutal of these oligarchs. And of course, an oligarch like this has no problem paying off all sorts of politicians all over the world, because it's to his benefit. If he pays off a politician, the politician will help this oligarch out insofar as business deals and whatnot, regulatory exemptions and so forth and so on, giving them monopoly control over certain industries in certain countries. That's the way these oligarchs operate. They pay off the right politician and they get their way unfairly to the detriment of the people. Monopolists are vampires. Oligarchs are vampires. And don't give me this bullshit, like Warren Buffett. He's such a nice man. No, he's not. He's a piece of shit. Warren Buffett, yes. And if you look into Warren Buffett a little bit, you realize that he's not this, rich uncle, this rich Santa Claus who has your best interest at heart. No. He's all about fucking you over with his insurance companies, right? You just have to dig a little deeper, and then you realize that he's a piece of shit, just a different kind, a different class, a different smell of shit from Kolomoisky. Okay, but they're all pieces of shit because they all look at you like cattle. They look at you, they look at me, and they have no trouble whatsoever milking you for all you're worth or slaughtering you for their advantage. Okay, so going back to this story here. Kolomoisky, for the past 8 years, has been funding the Azov battalion, the neo-Nazi movements, all kinds of militias, paramilitary groups that are all aligned with the Zelensky regime. Now, the Zelensky regime insisted on joining NATO, insisted on joining the European Union, and this created an existential crisis for the Russians. It's as simple as that. The Russians realized that they could not afford, under any circumstances, to have Ukraine join NATO. Now, a lot of people in the United States do not seem to understand this, so let me give you who are American, you who are listening to me now, let me give you the point of view of the Russians. Suppose that the Chinese become friendly with Colombia in South America. They become real friendly, and they enter into this joint military alliance. That's pretty weird, right? I mean, China and Colombia, they're separated by the Pacific Ocean. It's a pretty big ocean, right? But they get into this military alliance, and then Venezuela joins too. And then Panama soon enough joins. And then Guatemala joins this Chinese military alliance because they all claim to be equal members of equal status, but the biggest rooster, who is it? China. China really controls this military alliance. And China makes all these countries buy Chinese weapons, very expensive weapon systems. And it basically just twists their arm just a little bit, but still twisting their arm. Because, see, these guys, they realize that they only need to get their arms twisted a little bit to realize I'm going to pay up and buy these weapon systems, because or else the Chinese are just going to flat out break my arm, and the next guy who's president of my country is going to buy their weapons anyway. So there's no resistance. Resistance is futile to the American military-industrial complex. I mean, the Chinese military-industrial complex. So anyway, the Chinese get into this alliance with Colombia, with Venezuela, right? And it's not an alliance that sells weapons to these countries, but like with no purpose, because they don't have an enemy. But then this alliance one day decides, we should say that our primary adversary is the United States. Yeah, but we're building our alliance, it's just mutual protection, mutual defense. And, Honduras joins, and Nicaragua joins, and Costa Rica joins. And then, the United States sees this and they get a little freaked out, and there are weapon systems, Chinese weapon systems, in Colombia, in Venezuela, in Panama, in Nicaragua, Honduras, Costa Rica, and it starts wigging out the Americans something awful, right? And they say, don't get Mexico to join. Okay, I understand you have your security concerns, but don't get Mexico to join, because then it affects us, because Mexico is our buffer. But the Chinese, they say, why? Why are you saying that? Why are you saying that Mexico can't join? I mean, any country is free to join any alliance that they want, right? Right. And so if Mexico wants to join the alliance, the Chinese-led alliance with Chinese weapon systems all over Central America and South America, well, why are you such a bad, crazy person that you don't want Mexico to join? What's wrong with you? Huh? Are you evil? Do you have any intentions on Mexico? Maybe we should get Mexico to join us because you have evil intentions for Mexico. You see? And so finally, the Chinese start poking and poking and poking at the United States, and Mexico keeps insisting that it wants to join NATO, and it starts making moves like, it wants to retake Texas. See? Because Texas, it's called Tejas. Tejas means shingles on the roof. Tejas, now known as Texas, used to be Mexican. And the Mexicans say, that land is ours. You should give it back to us. And the United States is like, no, it's ours now. And it starts getting a little wigged out by the whole situation. And all of a sudden, the Chinese start sending military advisors to Mexico and start importing all kinds of weapons. And the Mexicans start amassing an army right on the border with Texas, right across from the Rio Grande. And the Rio Grande is not a particularly wide river. It's a hop, skip, and a jump to cross it. I mean, migrants cross it every day, right? And so all of a sudden, the United States realizes, holy shit, these fuckers mean to invade Texas and take it from us. So what would the United States do in that case? Huh? And you tell me. I think the answer is pretty goddamn obvious now, isn't it? They would attack first. Use the element of surprise, overwhelm the Mexicans, and take over Mexico. I mean, fucking take over the whole fucking country. Like that. Take it over because the Chinese are encroaching on the buffer zone of the United States. And the United States can't have that. The United States cannot have nuclear missiles, 10 miles away from San Diego. It just can't happen. It's not going to happen. And so the Americans invade Mexico. And China, what does China do? It goes around the world saying, look at these evil Americans who invaded Mexico. They are so evil. We weren't doing anything. We were just so innocent. And Mexico, poor Mexico, we stand with Mexico. And China starts putting all kinds of sanctions on the United States. And China starts saying that, all Americans are evil. And, don't call it American football. Call it whatever else. Like that. And start demonizing not just the American government that orders this invasion Not just the soldiers, the American soldiers that invade. No, no, the Chinese and their proxies around the world start saying that the Americans are evil, all American people are evil, and that they should be kicked out of their country, they should be persecuted, they should be treated like garbage. What do you think the American reaction would be? Do you think that the American people would just say, okay, well, sorry? No, they'd be like, fuck you. And even if there were people in the United States who opposed the invasion of Mexico, well, after this persecution, after all these Chinese sanctions against America and American people and American businesses, all this hysteria from China against the United States, against American people, well, the American people, even if they disagreed with the policy of invading Mexico, they'd rally around the flag because they'd realize, holy shit, these guys really hate our guts. These guys want us dead. And if Americans started reading and finding out that in China, they have whole think tanks and non-governmental organizations that are working 24/7 to figure out a way how to topple the government of the United States and potentially replace it with a quote unquote friendly regime, regime change in America. If they openly advocated that, if they even openly advocated for the breakup of the United States, do you think that Americans would like that very much? Do you think they'd be like, yay, man, that's really cool? Do you honestly think that, that the United States would be like so happy to think that the Chinese want to just, go into America and break it up into maybe 3 or 4 countries, and they wanted to deindustrialize it so that the Chinese could go into America, deindustrialize America, and take all their natural resources for their own companies, their own factories, their own industries. Do you think Americans would like that? Do you think that they'd be like, oh, that's so wonderful. That's such a wonderful fate. Do you think? Think, motherfucker. Come on. People in the United States would be outraged, justifiably so. So you see what's happening. Do you understand what's happening here? What's happening in Ukraine is a tragedy. War is obviously always a tragedy. Innocent people die. Innocent people die, and cities are destroyed, and it's horrible. I'm not denying that, on the contrary. And what is happening to Ukraine is horrible. It's horrible by any measure. And I'm right in the middle of it, so I know what the fuck I'm talking about, motherfucker. It's horrible. But did it just happen just because? I mean, I've given you this metaphor, or this analogy rather, with Mexico encroaching on the United States. And perhaps now you understand the situation. For the Russians, this is existential. They will fight to the last man to conquer Ukraine. Conquer, capture it, whatever you want to call it. They are going to capture the whole country, and they will die to the very last man to conquer it. Because for them, it's existential. Because they will never allow NATO and its weapon systems to be in Ukraine threatening Russia. And from their point of view, it is, do or die now. For America, it's no big deal. It's like Ukraine. It's fuck all, far away, right? But the Americans don't seem to understand this, or their arrogance or hubris, or the other possibility is that they are being manipulated by certain interests that do not have the well-being of the American people in mind. They don't have the best interest of the Ukrainian people in mind even. No. People like Kolomoisky, or people like Victoria Nuland, people like Wendy Sherman, people like Anthony Blinken. Anthony Blinken is the Secretary of State in the United States. That is basically, for those of you who are not American, he is the Minister for Foreign Affairs. Wendy Sherman is one of the principal negotiators. She's an Undersecretary of State, I believe. I forget her exact title, but she's the point person insofar as dealing with the negotiations with the different countries around the world. And Victoria Nuland is a very influential figure who engineered the coup d'etat in 2014 that overthrew the Yanukovych government and installed the Petroshenko government. And she is somebody who is the point person for Eastern Europe. Now, all of these people are with Kolomoisky in the sense that they all agree in the ultimate goal. And the ultimate goal is to destroy Russia because they hate Russia for ancient ancestral reasons that have nothing to do with the practical realities of today. They have an inchoate, visceral hatred of Russia. And they will do whatever it takes to destroy Russia. I mean, they hate it. Okay? I mean, you have to understand that. And so, anyway, Kolomoisky, as I said, he has his goons. I mean, you understand the situation now. It's very important. Hit me with a +333 to make sure that the chat understands what I'm saying in terms of like the significance for Russia of Ukraine. Oh, somebody's calling me a maggot. Oh, that's very interesting. Yeah, it must be some shill, some Kolomoisky or Zelensky shill, because it's not Ukrainian. It's not Ukrainian. No. The Ukrainian people are the innocent victims of the machinations of these pigs, because that's what they are. They are pigs, and they are manipulating the situation, both in Ukraine and in the West, to get what they want, which is the destruction of Russia. That's what they care about. That's all they care about because they hate it so much. Okay? So anyway, thanks. Apparently lots of you guys get where I'm coming from. Okay, so you have understood the analogy. It's very important that you understand that analogy. It's extraordinarily simple. And I hope that you will pass along this analogy to other people so that other people can understand what's going on in Russia and Ukraine. It's not that Russia one day woke up and decided, hey, no, it's not like that at all. Okay? Oof, coffee's cold, man. That's a pity. Anyway, it's pretty good coffee. Anyway, where was I? Oh, yeah. You see, Kolomoisky surrounded Zelensky with his people, and his people controlled the Zelensky government, and they pushed relentlessly for Ukraine to join NATO. And another thing that is becoming increasingly apparent is that, see, the Ukraine government, the Zelensky regime, was getting ready to invade the breakaway republics of Lugansk and Donetsk. And how do we know this? Well, because as I'm speaking to you now, the Russians are about to capture between 45,000 and 60,000 Ukrainian soldiers who are positioned in far eastern Ukraine. And they're positioned there, the bulk of the fighters of the Ukrainian army, because they were about to they were about to launch an invasion of those two breakaway republics. And quite simply, the Russians beat them to the punch. That's basically what happened. The Ukrainians had amassed their army. And remember when the Americans kept saying that, oh, you know, Russia is amassing its troops on the border. Russia is amassing its troops on the border. What does it want to do? Why is it doing that? What's up with what's going on with that? Projection. It's simple as that. They were projecting, see? Because it was the Ukrainians under American guidance. Because don't give me this bullshit that Kolomoisky, who puppeteers Zelensky. Zelensky is Kolomoisky's puppet. And Kolomoisky, more likely than not, was in contact either directly or indirectly with Victoria Nuland, Wendy Sherman, and Anthony Blinken with the express purpose of creating the conditions of a war between Ukraine and Russia. And they goaded the Ukrainian people into thinking that they could stand up to Russia. Russia has a stronger, bigger, better equipped, better led military than Ukraine. And that's a fact. And that is not belittling the Ukrainian armed forces. It is simply a statement of fact. And you who are listening and are of the Ukrainian military and don't like the fact that I'm stating this, well, then you're not a true professional, because a professional recognizes when he is confronted with a superior foe. And it's no shame to be confronted by a superior foe. There are men who are smarter than I am, more talented than I am, better looking than I am, though not many. There's always somebody better. There's always somebody better. And it hurts our pride perhaps sometimes, but we have to be realistic. And the Russian army, as it is led today, as it is equipped today, it's stronger, better led, better equipped. Simple as that. And so the Ukrainians decided that they were going to goad the Russians, invade these breakaway republics, these breakaway republics that they were breaking away because the Russians had been fomenting it and financing it. There's no question about that. And I'm not denying that. The Russians were doing this deliberately so that there would always be, something burning in Ukraine, which would prevent automatically Ukraine from joining NATO. Because NATO's rules stipulate that no nation can join it if it is currently involved in either a domestic or foreign crisis, insofar as war or ongoing strife is concerned. And this relentless little grind that was happening in the Donetsk and Lugansk People's Republics, well, that was financed and arranged by the Russians precisely so that it would disqualify Ukraine from ever joining NATO. But why would the Russians need to do this? Well, because they don't want Ukraine to join NATO, because they don't want NATO weapons, NATO potentially nuclear weapons, right on their front yard. In 1962, John Kennedy almost went to nuclear war with the Soviet Union because of the missiles, the nuclear missiles that were parked on Cuba. It's the same goddamn thing, okay? It's exactly the same thing. And so the Russians would not tolerate it. And finally, they realized, look, these Ukrainians, they're goaded by the Americans, they're goaded by NATO and the European Union, and they are going to launch an invasion of Lugansk and Donetsk. So what do we do about it? We beat them to the punch. We go first. We go first, and we'll be the bad guys. Fine, we'll be the bad guys, but see, if we don't do this, we're dead. This is existential for us. So we go it and we take the bad publicity, we take the sanctions, we take whatever they throw at us. Because if we don't have a neutral Ukraine, at least neutral, if we don't have a neutral Ukraine, we're dead. Because they're going to have nuclear weapons right in front of our door. And they can carry out a first strike and destroy our entire nation. And you can say that the United States has no such intention, then why are think tanks talking about regime change in Russia and breaking up Russia into 4 or 5 or even 8, 9 separate countries, balkanize it? Why are these think tanks doing that? Riddle me this, Batman. What's up with that? Because a lot of people, for ethnic and religious reasons, hate Russia and they want to see it destroyed. That's the reason. And very few people like talking about it, but that's the truth. And I have no dog in this, I don't have any dog in this fight. Hell, I'm Chilean and Roman Catholic, man. I mean, as far removed from this shit as you can possibly get, for crying out loud. I mean, I'm practically a Martian insofar as this conflict is concerned. And therefore, I can look at it and say what's really going on. And it's this bizarre ethnic hatred for Russia that is fueling this bullshit. Because on top of that, the Russians don't have any designs for Europe for 2 reasons. Number one, they're not interested particularly in Europe. And number 2, they have been swatted aside by Europe economically and culturally for so long that the Russians have turned to China and they have discovered a very enthusiastic partner. And the Russians are realizing that their future lies with China, not with the West. Insofar as Russia is concerned, Western Europe is dying. The United States, as far as Russia is concerned, is dying. China, Southeast Asia, South Asia, that's the future. India, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Vietnam, and China, as I said, and of course Indonesia. The Russians are realizing that that's the future. And that's where they have to point their efforts, invest their money. They look at Europe as just a lost cause because the Europeans for now decades, for 3 decades, have consistently rejected the Russians. And so what happens to a guy who constantly chases after some girl and the girl keeps rejecting him? He finally gets bored and starts looking around and he finds, oh, look at this bookish little Asian girl. But she's so nice to me, and she cooks for me and cleans for me and treats me nicely and is happy to see me whenever I show up. And so what the fuck you think the guy's going to do, man? He's going to blow off the cheerleader who kept, sticking her nose up and like walking away from him. He's going to blow her off and go with the bookish little Asian chick who turns out to be sexy as hell. That's what's going on with Russia. Russia is not interested in conquering Poland or some bullshit like that. They just want to have a Western bulwark, a neutral zone. Belarus, Ukraine, they'd really like it if Estonia and Latvia and Lithuania stopped being part of NATO and just went back to their neutral status as before. Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for the super chat, and I'll thank the super chatters, and thanks very much. That's very kind of you. I lost a train of thought. Okay, future super chats, I'm kind of gonna ignore you because when I like acknowledge you and it's very kind of you, it sort of like throws me off. Okay, so anyway, what the hell was I saying? And yeah, god damn it, look at me, man. I'm going bald as fuck. Bald as an egg, motherfucker. Damn, man. I thought I'd hold on to my hair. Oh well, even the Mona Lisa is falling apart. You know what I'm saying? Hmm. Anyway, before getting thrown off my thing, I was saying that the Russians no longer care about Western Europe. They don't. They have no interest in Poland or what have you. They don't care. They are looking to Asia because they see that Asia is the future. And they have recognized, especially over the last few years, especially since 2014, with the implementation of all these sanctions and this demonization of Russia, the Russians have realized that they have no future with Western Europe or the United States or Canada or Australia or New Zealand. Their future lies with Asia. They have discovered a very enthusiastic partner. They are pivoting in that direction. They're happy. They don't need the bullshit of the West. And they certainly don't need NATO right on their doorstep in Ukraine. And so that's why they invaded. And so let's turn to Kolomoisky. Kolomoisky, has been egging on this whole thing. I mean, like I said, he is the puppeteer behind Zelensky. Kolomoisky is the man who controls Zelensky up until now. Now, here is the part where I'm going to go into some slight speculation. Now, you can take it or leave it as you see fit. But you see, up until this war, it was very clear that Zelensky was Kolomoisky's plaything, his toy, his puppet, call him what you will. Because Zelensky has no political experience, no executive experience. I mean, come on, he's literally an actor. And he knows how to act, he knows a good PR moment and all that bullshit, but he does not know how to lead, he does not know how to organize a government, he does not have any kind of executive experience. All of that was provided by Kolomoisky. He was the real power behind the whole thing, okay? Now, the war started. And it caught everybody by surprise. It caught me by surprise, man. I flew into fucking Kiev the day before the fucking invasion, man. What the fuck, man? Jesus Christ. But anyway, caught everybody by surprise. And word is, it even caught the Russian hierarchy by surprise. Only a very, very small group of people, like literally less than a handful, less than 5 people, including Putin, knew what was coming. And Putin sprung this on his top tier people, and they were like, what the fuck? Okay, the boss says so, we do it. And they did it, and they're winning. Bottom line, the Russians are winning. This is one of the most successful invasions in military history. It really is. Okay, successful in the minimization of loss of life, successful in the amount of territory gained in the amount of time that we're discussing. Ukraine is a country of some 606,000 square kilometers, slightly smaller than Texas. And in 1 week, the Russians, a little over a week, the Russians have captured, well, no, now we're talking 10 days. The Russians have captured roughly 40% of the country. And they are about to encircle, if they have not encircled already, the bulk of the Ukrainian army, the bulk of their fighters. And those that once they've encircled them, that's over for those fighters. They can't be resupplied, so they are going to starve, or what will more likely happen, they will simply surrender, or they will melt away into the civilian population, or some of them will fight and fight to the death. And the Russians are clearly prepared for any one of those 3 eventualities, or frankly, all 3 is going to happen, because some are going to desert, some are going to surrender, and some are going to fight to the death. That's the way things are, of course, especially when you're talking about an army of minimum 45,000 men, and there are even estimates as high as 100,000, but that seems a little excessive. The entire Ukrainian army is about 250,000 men. The Russians is over like 1.5 million or something like that. So anyway, insofar as the military achievement is concerned, they're winning. They're winning decisively, and their strategy has been very, very simple. They advance, and when they hit any resistance, hard resistance, they surround that resistance. and they wait it out. They wait it out and start turning up the heat. What? Because that's their strategy. It's called the cauldron. They hit an obstacle, envelop it, and once it's completely enveloped, then they just turn up the heat. That's where the name cauldron comes from. Yeah? It's extremely effective. Okay? And so, anyway, the Russians are winning. Once they capture this army, it's over. Militarily, it's over. Okay? And here we come to the great problem. You see, it is clear at this time that Kolomoisky and Zelensky himself have lost control of their own government. Okay? And why am I saying this? Or how am I? It's very simple. You see, Kolomoisky is a gangster. And that's what he is. He is a gangster no different from, Meyer Lansky or Bugsy Siegel, but certainly not as romantic. He's just ruthless and bloody and disgusting and despicable. He's a fucking pig. And he has funded the neo-Nazis, the Azov Battalion, all the rest of these people. Now, he has funded them, and they are goons. They are thugs. And what is clear is that with this invasion, the more sensible people, the more executive people, the more moderate people have been shoved aside as the situation has very clearly deteriorated. Because the Ukrainians, and I've said this many times before, the Ukrainians are winning the war on Twitter. They are winning the PR battle. They are winning the war of public relations. But the Russians are winning the actual war, the war on the ground. And at the end of the day, only one of those two actually counts. Now, doesn't it? The Russians are winning militarily, and the Ukrainians, or the Zelensky regime, because I want to separate between the country of Ukraine, the people of Ukraine, the armed forces of Ukraine, and this disgusting and despicable regime, the Zelensky regime, the regime of thugs. During the time of Zelensky, of course, not by order of Zelensky, but order of Kolomoisky, 4 television stations were shut down that were critical of the government. Journalists have been persecuted, and a couple have disappeared, and nobody knows what's happened to them. Even lawmakers have been intimidated with physical violence. And this was before the war, by the way. And graft and corruption and theft of state funds gone through the roof. The amount of money that has gone out of Ukraine to pay off foreign politicians in Washington, politicians in London, politicians in Brussels, off the charts. They have spent so much goddamn money. It's unbelievable. Do you think that Zelensky had anything to do with that? He was just the figurehead. He's just the puppet. He's just the face. The man doing this was Kolomoisky. He's the one who did it. Who's been paying off European politicians, American politicians. I mean, come on, we all know what's going on with the Biden family. They are corrupt as sin, for crying out loud. And that's the truth. And so Kolomoisky has funded his militias and paramilitary groups and Azov Battalion and all this crap. And they are actual neo-Nazis. And when Vladimir Putin said that he was going to invade Ukraine to accomplish 2 things, the demilitarization of Ukraine, that is, turn it into a neutral state, and the denazification of Ukraine, this is what he meant. Because Kolomoisky, Jewish though he is, he doesn't care if he has fascist muscle. All he cares about is having muscle. But what I suspect has happened is that with this invasion and the clear sense that the Ukrainians are losing, and from the very beginning it was clear that the Ukrainians were going to lose, the more sensible, moderate people, the more hard-headed people, the people who would actually go ahead and potentially negotiate a structured surrender of some sort or a cessation of hostilities that would leave the Russians in the driver's seat, well, they were pushed aside. And the people who are now clearly in control of the government are the thugs. And if you don't believe me, look at all the pictures of Zelensky. Like, for instance, when he signed the letter asking to join the European Union, that it was so celebrated, look at the people around him. They were thugs. You can just see them and you realize, I mean, they look like club bouncers, now didn't they? Yeah, they were thugs. And look at the people who negotiated with the Russians in Belarus. Because recently there has been a series of talks. Because the Russians, when they go to war, the Americans, when they go to war, they cut off diplomatic relations and just go to war and kill everybody. And that's what they do. But the Russians are very different. When they go to war, they continue with diplomacy. Because they try to work out, because they see war as a continuation of diplomacy. Mhm. And so what they try to do is continue with the diplomatic efforts, even as they're trying to conquer your country, and try to figure out a way to end the hostilities, because they don't want to continue the hostilities indefinitely. They don't want to destroy anybody's country. They certainly don't want to destroy Ukraine, because to them, Ukraine is the same as Canada is to any American. They're like cousins. They're like brothers. And yeah, in Quebec, you got the crazy ass Frenchies, right? But they're still like our guys, right? That's how the Russians view Ukraine, okay? And Ukraine is, and I do not mean this in any sort of disrespectful way, but they are very similar to the Canadians in that relationship between Canada and the United States, Ukraine and Russia, in that they're gentler, they're softer, they're more polite. I would venture to say that perhaps you could even say that they are kinder. Mhm. And so that is the relationship between the two countries. The Russian political leadership, most certainly, has no intention of abusing the citizenry. It is very clear. I am talking to you from Kharkov, that is being surrounded by the Russians. And I have electricity, I have running water, I have internet, I have cell phone. If the Russians really wanted to abuse the citizenry, all of that would have been gone in the first day, because the Russians could do it. If the Russians wanted to level Ukraine, it would take them maybe 12 hours. And level them with, non-nuclear weapons, okay? And they could do it easily without breaking a sweat, okay? I mean, they just say the word and Ukraine would be leveled from end to end if the Russians wanted that. They don't want that, because if they wanted it, they would have done it already. They just want the military to lay down their weapons. And the problem is that the current Zelensky regime, realizes that the game is up. And the fascist neo-Nazis realize that they are dead men. That's what's going on. And so that's why this war is prolonging itself, because the neo-Nazis in the Zelensky regime realize that if they lay down their weapons, they're going to be killed by the Russians. The Russians, unfortunately, have said this. That's the issue. They've said that they know who the Nazis are, and they're going to get them. They're going to get every last one of them. They've said so. And they've said that they have no trouble whatsoever and no problem whatsoever with an honorable, decent member of the Ukrainian armed forces. But to all the neo-Nazis, all the thugs, all the lunatics, the Russians have essentially said, you're dead. And that's why it seems to me, and this is, here we go into my supposition. My supposition from what I have seen so far is that the Ukrainian government, the Zelensky regime, is now controlled by the thugs that Kolomoisky put in there. And frankly, I don't think that Kolomoisky has any control over them anymore, because these thugs realize that the game is up and they are dead men. And so they are no longer paying attention to Kolomoisky, much less Zelensky. Zelensky is their puppet. He's just their skin suit, frankly. They realize that what they have to do is fight to the very last Ukrainian man, woman, and child. Because if they get captured by the Russians, they're dead. And so they are going to do everything in their power to avoid that fate. That's what's going on now. And that is why every day, the Ukrainians, or let me phrase it, the Zelensky regime creates a situation that will lead to a foreign policy disaster for the Russians, like yesterday, or the day before yesterday, or yesterday. I'm getting the days mixed up, because it's been fucking intense. I'll tell you that right now. I mean, no kidding. It's been intense as all get out, man. It's a fucking war, man. Look, parentheses here. The death of people is tragic. I'm not saying that at all. I'm not denying that at all. But the whole thing is very exciting, man. I'm not going to lie. Maybe I'll do a live stream discussing what it's like to be in the middle of an actual war, an actual old-fashioned 19th century war, because that's what this is. It's incredible. Anyway, And I lost track of what I wanted to say. Yeah. So these militias, neo Nazis, all the rest of them, they're going to fight to the death, and that's why 2 days ago, yesterday, um, when the Russians invaded from the north, they quickly captured Chernobyl, the site of the 1987 nuclear accident. Now, of course, those reactors are still very dangerous, the ones that melted down, and a couple of the others still work and, in fact, provide electricity for Kiev. Now, the Russians arrived and they quickly came to an agreement with the Ukrainians that were fighting in that area, and they agreed to a mini ceasefire around the Chernobyl plant. And as professionals and as gentlemen, the two sides, the Ukrainian army side and the Russian army side, they have joint control of the nuclear power station at Chernobyl. And there's video floating around of the officers of both sides, supervising the operation. And they've come to a modus vivendi, which is, of course, the most sensible thing, because, of course, the Russians have their political aims. The Russian army has its political aims of capturing Ukraine. The Ukrainian army has its aim of preventing that capture. But for the greater good, for the greater security of all people, of course, they're not going to go to war over the Chernobyl power plant. Of course not. They're not going to create the conditions of some accident happening, some military accident happening, and God knows what occurring to innocent people, millions of innocent people. No, they acted as sensible, decent people, and they have come to an arrangement, and all good. The Russians captured the Zaporozhye nuclear power plant, and at 2 a.m. Friday morning, local time, all of a sudden, a squad of Ukrainians, but it's not clear if they were regular army or if they were paramilitary or Azov battalion or some other of these crazy-ass goon squad people in the Zelensky regime. Well, they showed up with some RPGs. That's rocket-propelled grenades. And they started firing those rocket-propelled grenades from the Zaporozhye power station, deliberately trying to draw Russian fire against them. Why? To create the nightmare public relations scenario of the Russians setting fire and shooting on a nuclear power station. Immediately when this happened, Zelensky went out with a statement saying that he denounced it, that the Russians were going to explode the power station, and the whole of Europe was going to go up in flames because of the crazy Russians. The crazy Russians did this. And it had nothing to do with the crazy Russians, and it had everything to do with Zelensky provocateurs. That's the truth. I'm going to say something else too that a lot of people are going to be upset about in Ukraine. They're going to be very upset about, but I'm going to say it. There was a rocket attack a few days ago, 3 days ago, that fell on an administrative building in the middle of Kharkov. Okay, actually not too far from where I live, about a kilometer away, a little over, about a mile away, perhaps 2 kilometers. 2 kilometers. Let's put it at that. Close, right? A rocket attack that destroyed a administrative building, a government administrative building that was facing the main square in Kharkov. Now, the thing about this building is that it had no military significance whatsoever. It was just a government administrative building, and it was empty. And it was not leveled, but it suffered a huge hit. And what's really interesting is all the video that emerged. It was perfectly composed. And the thing is, see, the rocket that hit it, well, the Russians were really far away, okay? And I was there, and I didn't hear any plane, okay? I mean, it was not a rocket that you would think that could be launched from 40 kilometers away. I personally think it was a false flag, deliberately designed by the Zelensky regime. And the Zelensky regime has lied consistently about all sorts of stuff. For instance, the ghost of Kiev. The ghost of Kiev, who was this ace pilot who shot down 6 Russian planes on the first day. And then it was like 13 planes in like 2 days. Yeah, right. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Oh, it turned out that the name of the pilot was Samuel Heidsky. Those of you who know internet culture will know what I'm talking about. Yeah, it was Samuel Heidsky. There was no fucking ghost of Kiev. It was made up. Okay. The same story is that, there were 13 defenders on this little island called Snake Island in the Black Sea that was Ukrainian, and that the Russians invaded it, and took control of it, really. And the 13 men there said, "Fuck you, Russians! We'll fight to the death," and they all died. And then it turned out that, first of all, there weren't 13, there were 82, which is kind of surprising. I saw a picture of the island. It was really tiny, but okay. 82 soldiers there, and none of them died. Okay. There were no 13. That was a lie. Okay. All kinds of lies. And what's really interesting is that the Zelensky regime is really, really good at the PR game. And what's the point of their PR game? To draw the West into the war, to create the conditions where Americans and Europeans are willing to commit troops to fighting in Ukraine against the Russians. And there have been all kinds of talk and all kinds of bullshit, like declaring a no-fly zone over all of Ukraine, which is just absurd, and I'll explain in just a moment. But all of this bullshit, it's PR manufactured. I mean, Zelensky is an actor. And Kolomoisky, he believes in PR and manipulating public perception to get his way. That's how he got a president into office in Ukraine. See, that's what's going on. So anyway, the thugs have taken over. The thugs have definitively taken over the Zelensky regime. Yesterday, he gave a press conference to the European Union, and he was stoned. I mean, he was serious. I mean, if I had to guess, I'd say it was cocaine. Okay, and Putin had said that he wanted to get rid of the drug addicts in Kiev, in the regime. He said that he called some of them drug addicts, and a lot of people said that that was just hyperbole. But the thing is, it's been becoming increasingly clear that Zelensky has a drug problem. I mean, he's a junkie, or he's got a serious coke habit, and probably bought all that coke with some of his $1 billion, because that's how much Zelensky is worth at this time, $1 billion. Now, tell me this: how on earth could a Ukrainian actor, star that he is in a successful TV show and successful movies, though he may have been in, how does he have $1 billion? Huh? You tell me, man. I mean, what? What the fuck you think, man? Come on. You're a grown-up. You know what's going on. Corruption, thievery. So anyway, Zelensky is stoned. It looks like the kind of behavior that I saw in him, it reminded me of guys who had snorted a couple of lines of coke, on a long party with a lot of booze, and they were coming down, okay? And that means that the guy is snorting it 3-4 hours before, and he's coming down, and it's that kind of situation. I mean, I've had some experience with that. I mean, I personally no, but no way. But I know some friends of mine who had serious coke problems. Yeah, coke is a nasty, nasty drug, and that's my supposition. Okay, I could be wrong. Maybe it's something else, but that's not the point. He was definitely stoned. He's definitely on drugs. Okay, and so what Vladimir Putin said was true. And this is not me being a Vladimir Putin apologist. Okay, when I first heard him characterize the Ukrainian leadership as drug addicts, I was like, fuck you, man. What the fuck you talking about, dude? But seeing Zelensky, I'm like, dude, the fucker was right, man. Yeah, he is. He's a junkie, okay? He's an actor. I mean, come on, these guys, man, what the fuck you think, huh? Anyway, it seems clear to me, like I said earlier, that the thugs are in control, because whenever you see Zelensky, he's surrounded by thugs, by guys who look like club bouncers, and they look nasty, okay? They're nasty people, simple as that. You see that delegation that went to Belarus, because like I said, the Russians believe in negotiation at the same time as they're conducting military operations. So they're more than willing to have diplomatic talks in a neutral territory with the Ukrainians, which they have been having in Belarus. And at that first meeting, the Russians, they showed up, their committee, their negotiating committee. And I looked at those guys and I'm like, dude, man, those guys could be my uncle, okay? in the sense that I know that type really, really well. They are very quiet gray men, corporate, best education, best universities, very well dressed, rich men, but very, very quiet, very low key, very professional, extremely dangerous, but in a not like a thuggish way. I mean, they're not going to pull out a gun or anything like that, but they'll fuck you over with like the right lawsuit at the right time, right where it hurts, like that. Okay, they'll fuck you over that way. They'll fuck you over legally. Okay, because they are honorable citizens. Yeah, they are the gray men who we want to run things because they know what the fuck they're doing. And I looked at that Russian delegation, and again, this is not Putin apologia or any shit like that. This is just an evaluation of the men that I saw. And those men the Russians who are in that negotiating committee, they're professionals. They're meant to be taken seriously, and they're guys who are tough. I mean, they're real tough, right? And then I looked at the Ukrainian delegation. They were dressed like thugs. They looked like thugs. They acted like thugs. They were thugs. They were thugs outright. And look at the picture. You don't have to believe me. Look at the picture. Look at the picture. Google it. It's the first negotiation meeting between the Russian delegation and the Ukrainian delegation in Belarus. Google that and you'll see the picture. It's very clear. On the left-hand side are all these gentlemen from Russia who are there to negotiate. And on the right-hand side are a bunch of thugs. Yeah. I mean, you'd look at those guys on the right that were representing Ukraine, and they looked like the entourage of some white guy rapper. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, that's what they look like. And what was really interesting about that picture was that on the left, the Russians didn't have anything in front of them, or perhaps a notebook or two, to write down notes, of course. But on the right-hand side, the Ukrainian delegation, these thugs, they had their cell phones out. Now, I've been in a number of business meetings over the years, and very serious ones, some of them. And when you go into a business meeting like that, like a serious one, like, something that really heavy going down, you turn off your cell phone and pocket it. And if you're gonna, write anything, you'll have a notebook where you'll like quickly write some notes there. You're not gonna whip out your cell phone. You're not gonna lay it on the table, on. You know why they had those cell phones on like that on the table? Because either they were recording the call or they had an open line and somebody else was listening in. And that was happening. And who do you think would be listening in? Kolomoisky, or more properly, somebody who would actually know what the fuck to do in such a situation. Somebody like, for instance, Victoria Nuland, or somebody like Anthony Blinken. That's what I think, okay? And maybe I'm totally wrong. Maybe it was like Santa Claus on the other end of that line. But, I don't really think so, Santa ain't down with ceasefire negotiations. You know what I'm saying? Santa loves everybody, and he wants to deliver toys to all the children of the world, including the Russian children, okay? But, you see what I'm saying? I'm being obviously, whatever, but come on. So anyway. Moving on. These thugs that are running things, see, they're ignorant and stupid and they're desperate. And so something that's been happening over the last week or so, I think, starting on Monday, at least on Monday, probably earlier perhaps, but what has been going on is, you see, people are fleeing the country. There's a lot of chaos going on, okay? And because of this chaos going on, people lose track of one another. I mean, like, for instance, a war is going on where you live in your state, and you have a bunch of friends there and acquaintances and whatnot, people you care about very much, and people that you're friendly with, and close friends and distant friends that you see once in a while, right? And so you're in the middle of a war zone. A war has started, and so you want to flee the area. So you're going to care about your people being your family, your closest friends, your relatives, the people that you truly care about. You're going to be working to ensure that they're okay, right? Packing up the car, getting everybody on the train station, that sort of thing. You're not going to be paying attention to your friends. You're not, because you're going to be too busy, right? Because everything is in flux. Everybody is becoming a refugee, right? It seems that under cover of this chaos, this social chaos, this movement of everybody from side to side, well, it seems that people are disappearing and really fucking awful things are happening to them. Now, I'm going to read you 3 cases that are happening, that have happened rather, okay? Because, you see, the story I told you about thugs coming to look for me in my apartment on Wednesday, I could be making that up, I mean, I could just make it up out of whole cloth, I was like in my apartment and, I'm like, geez, I'm bored. I need some attention. How did I get some attention? I know, I'll make up a story. Oh, yeah, okay. So it could be that. So let's pretend that I never told you this story, that what happened to me. Instead, I'm going to tell you a different story that is backed up by links, by citations. Yes. Citation, please. Yes, we have some. Let me read you the headline. This is from the Daily Mail, the Mail Online. This was published on the 3rd of March, 2 days ago. Okay? Let me read you the headline. Pro-Russian mayor of city in eastern Ukraine who welcomed Putin's invasion is found shot dead in the street after being kidnapped from his home. That's a real fucking headline. They snatched this mayor, Vladimir Struk, who is the mayor of the city of Kreminna, and they snatched him from his home. And a day or two later, he was found shot through the heart in the very center of Kreminna. They dumped his body in the middle of the city. Now, of course, when you do something like that, when you assassinate a mayor and dump him in the middle of his own city, that's to send a message of shut the fuck up, don't fuck with us, don't say anything that we don't fucking like. That's the message that's being sent, okay? That's what they did to this poor mayor. And the city of Kreminna is a small city, 18,600 souls. Ukraine has a population of 45 million people. It has major cities, 3 major cities that have over 1 million people each. I do believe Kiev has something like 2.7, Kharkov 1.4, and Dnipro, I think like 1.1, but I could be wrong. But it's roughly along that area. It's not important really. Kreminna is tiny. It's a small city, and without disrespecting this mayor who is dead, Mayor Struk, he was a minor politician, a minor inconsequential thorn in the side of the Zelensky regime. Do you know what an official of the Zelensky regime said? An advisor for the Interior Minister of Ukraine, Anton Garushenko, alleged that Mr. Struk, quote, was judged by the court of the People's Tribunal and called him a traitor. This is an official of the Interior Ministry of Ukraine who was celebrating the assassination of the mayor of Kreminna. That's not normal. That's not how a normal government operates. This is bullshit. This is fucking gangster shit, and not gangster in the cool way. Oh, you look so gangster in those sneakers. No. This is the gangster fuck you up and crucify you kind of shit kind of way. Yeah, that kind of gangster, which is the Azov battalion has done that, by the way. They have literally crucified people. They have literally tortured people, nailed them to a cross, and hoisted up that cross and videotaped it. I've seen it. I was so fucking horrified. I was like thinking, motherfucker. And of course I'm thinking that might happen to me. Fuck yeah, who wouldn't? And that kind of move, that you do that and then you videotape it and distribute that videotape, it's just an intimidation tactic. It's just to show everybody, don't fuck with us. Thugs. Pieces of shit. I'm sorry, that kind of intimidation shit, I fucking despise it. I react to it viscerally. Because I've said it before and I'll say it again, thugs like that, my old man was a bully and a bastard like that. Basically a thug. Yeah, nice suit and all, big job in finance, but a fucking thug, a fucking bully piece of shit. And that's why, as a grown man today, whenever I see this kind of attitude of bullying people, of abusing them like this, it's just a visceral hatred of it, you know? And I look at this fucker, Kolomoisky, and dude, he's the cause of this shit. He's the cause of this criminality and corruption of the Zelensky regime, that now he has lost control of it. That's the problem. He has lost control of it. These thugs are running scared, and so they are eliminating anybody who opposes them, anybody whom they consider, a quote unquote traitor, judged by the People's Tribunal. No, it's not a People's Tribunal. It's judged by a bunch of fucking thugs dressed up like fucking gangster rappers. I'm sorry, I gotta calm down, man. It just infuriates me, man. I need chat to help me out here, I mean, do you think that my outrage is justified or not? Hit me with a +1 if you think it's justified, and a 0 if you think I'm like overreacting. Overreacting to the killing of some poor schmuck who never hurt anybody, huh? Who thinks that I'm overreacting? Hit 0. Or if you think that I am morally justified in my outrage at this shit, hit +1. Thank you, chat. I appreciate it. I haven't seen a single 0, so that's good to know that my chat is, you fuckers might annoy me sometimes and insult me and call me all kinds of stupid shit and coach post, which, well, coach posting I kind of like, right? But it's good to know that you're morally on the right side of the equation. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Now, this happened to Mayor Struk of the city of Kreminna. And you can look it up. Don't take my word for anything. Look it up yourself. It's on Daily Online. It's a Mail Online, rather, dailymail.co.uk. On the 3rd of March, all you have to Google is Daily Mail, Mayor Struk, S-T-R-U-K, and you're going to find him lickety-split, okay? Then let's see the next story. Oh, yeah, the next story is fucking horrifying, man. See, a deputy of the parliament in Ukraine, Nestor Shufrik, and I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing his name. Now, I posted this on my Telegram channel. You can find my Telegram channel. It's a link in the description. And I posted it today. You just have to scroll back a little bit from the last post. And you'll find several posts that I put about Nestor Shufrik. What happened to him was despicable. He was kidnapped by thugs. And I can't show you the picture on screen, but go to my Telegram channel and you will find it. The thug who captured him, who kidnapped him, took a selfie of himself with this poor Nestor Shufrik. And Nestor Shufrik is this balding, white-haired guy, a little bit older than me, middle-aged guy. He is a lawmaker in Ukraine's parliament, and he's pro-Russian in the sense of pro-ethnic Russian and pro-Russian language, which has been prohibited. There's been persecution of the Russian language speakers and whatnot during the last 8 years, and Zelensky was zealous about it, how he shut down news stations because of it and all the rest of it. Well, Shufrik called for he said he wanted to bring the boys back home, which is a milquetoast sentiment. No disrespect to the man, but, as uncontroversial as possible. I mean, come on, you're in a war and you think that the war is not a wise thing, and you say, no, we should end this, we should bring the boys home, we should negotiate, blah, blah. And because of this, he took a picture of a checkpoint in Kiev. Now, this is trivial, okay? He took a picture of a checkpoint because, like, for instance, in my own case, I took a whole boatload of video of different things in Kiev that were happening, military things, because they were cool, And to take a picture of a checkpoint in Kiev is trivial because it's not going to give anybody any kind of important information, military information. But because of that, the Zelensky regime thugs kidnapped him, and there is a selfie of the thug who kidnapped him holding him by the neck with a knife to his throat. I'm not kidding, man. That's what it was. And what happened to chat? Chat, are you there or are you gone? I don't know if I'm just talking to empty air or not. Hit me with a +1 if you guys can hear me, because I don't see any chat. It's like the chat just disappeared. I don't know what's going on. Well, I'll just keep on talking and assume that you guys can hear me or something. So anyway, it's a little weird, but okay. So anyway, are you there? Hello? I don't see the chat. Oh man. Oh man. Oh, there you guys are. There you are. Okay. Hit me with +1 to make sure that you can hear me. I don't know what happened. I don't know what's going on with the chat. I don't know if I winked out or what. What time is it? 7:24. And let me see the last time of this. 7:22. Did I get interrupted? You guys got to help me out, because I have no idea if you guys are actually seeing me or not. Let me go to the computer and quickly see if my live stream is on or off. Oh man, I hope I'm not off, you know? Let me just quickly check this. Wait. Okay. Oh man, it's really fucking. Because I have no idea, I have no feedback from you guys as to whether you're actually following me or not. And so it's. Wait a second here. Oh, great. So let me just mute this. Okay, sorry about that, chat. Okay, what happened was, so that you understand, I'm doing this on my phone, and I have like a really second tier computer laptop that I'm using. It's just for writing, okay, basically. And so yeah, I was like, too many lies from the serpent. That was last comment, and I'm trying to figure out what's going on. If you guys can actually see me or not. I don't know what the hell is going on. Can you guys, just chat anything? Am I just, all on my own or what? What the hell? I'll get back to the topic at hand. Okay, this is really weird. It's like all of you are gone, and I'm the only one watching this. Okay, so I don't know what to do. So fuck it. I'm just going to keep on going, and I'm going to talk, and maybe you guys will catch up, or maybe something will improve in this very bizarre situation. I have no idea what the fuck is going on. Oh man, it's like there's nothing going on. This is just really, really fucking bizarre. Oh, okay. Chat's back. I don't know what the fuck happened, because I need sorry about this, guys, but I need yeah, I'm seeing chat scrolling like a million miles a second. I need this interaction, this feedback to know that you're actually there. And so I didn't know what the fuck happened. Okay. I guess it was a glitch on YouTube. Please excuse me. Obviously, it could not be helped, but I don't know how much you missed. And I once again lost track of what the fuck I was talking about, because I'm a fucking retard. Okay, yeah. Nestor Shufrik. Now, Nestor Shufrik, they grabbed him. There's a selfie that the goon grabbed that's on my Telegram channel. The goon grabbed him and held a knife to his throat and smiled for the selfie. And you can see Nestor Shufrik just freaking the fuck out, right? And then later, there is a video that I also posted on my Telegram channel where a USB officer, no, SBU officer basically abuses him and maltreats him. The SBU is the Ukrainian version of the KGB. The KGB is, of course, like the really nasty guys, right? And the SBU officer just rails at him, and what comes out of the railing is that this Nestor Shufrik, all he was saying was that he wanted to negotiate and bring the boys home because he wanted to avoid needless death, which is perfectly respectable, a perfectly respectable opinion or belief or desire. Certainly a desire that I have. I don't want anybody to die, but anyway. Let's not talk about that. Let's talk about what's going on here. See, this guy is, there are several pictures of him where he's being threatened with a knife to his throat, where he is blindfolded, like some sort of like hostage. These goons, these thugs, kidnapped him, wrapped him up, trussed him like a turkey, and then delivered him to the SBU. And the SBU interrogated him and charged him and claimed that he was a mole, a Russian mole. Huh? Yeah, that's what they're doing. And here's the next one. And this is from Interfax, okay? As squeaky clean as you can get it. SBU kills member of Ukrainian delegation at talks with Russia on suspicion of treason. I mean, get the fuck, this is one of those thugs that was representing Ukraine in the negotiations with Russia was assassinated by the SBU. The Ukrainian Security Service, SBU, shot and killed Denis Kiryev, okay? A member of the Ukrainian negotiating team at the first round of negotiations with Russia in Belarus. They shot him while attempting to detain him. And that's something, huh? Okay, they shot him while trying to detain him, Ukrainian parliamentarian Alexei Honcharenko said. Quote, during an attempt to detain Denis Kiryev, a member of the Ukrainian negotiation delegation, the Ukrainian Security Service shot and killed him. He was suspected of high treason. So great, if you get suspected of high treason, you get the bullet. Yeah. Fuck the rule of law. Fuck this whole, trial by jury or any shit like that. Just shoot them all. Kill them all. Let God sort them out. That seems to be the motto here. Now, why am I highlighting these three cases? There are rumors that a lot of people have disappeared, been shot, been whatever, over the last week or so. And I pointed out this mayor, Vladimir Struk, who, and I mean no disrespect to his family, certainly not his family, and no disrespect to his memory, but he was a very minor politician. I mean, in the scheme of things, he was trivial. I mean, a mayor of a city of 18,000 people, very respectable, but again, in the scheme of things, very small. In my own case, I am a YouTuber with a combined 350,000 subscribers, and I did a video that was repackaged in Russian and added some commentary, and that video went viral all across Russia and Ukraine and apparently Poland, actually around the world, right? And so some thugs showed up at my home, my actual home, okay, looking for me. So what the fuck you think is going on? If they're looking after a microscopic e-celebrity, if they're going after mayors of tiny little burgs, if they are assassinating their own negotiators, what the fuck you think is going on, man? What's going on? These thugs are like rats on a sinking ship, and they're getting desperate. And they're lashing out at whoever they can because they know they can't beat the Russians, and they're terrified of the Russians because the Russians have said, you're dead men. And deservedly so, and especially the way that they're acting now. You see, Kolomoisky put these thugs as the muscle. And he used these thugs. He put them there deliberately and used these thugs to control Zelensky and have Zelensky implement the policies that he wanted, that Kolomoisky wanted. And now that the situation is deteriorating in Ukraine, these thugs are realizing that they're on a sinking ship and they're lashing out, and they're broken away from Kolomoisky. This is my belief, and we will only find out when this is all over. They are lashing out. They are going after anyone that they perceive as an enemy, anybody that they can reach, that they can grab. Because this is what happens with bullies, with thugs. When they come across a stronger force, they knuckle under, right? But then they lash out at somebody weaker. Now, I know this for firsthand experience for the reasons I explained before. Okay? The old man, my old man, was a fucking pathetic little piece of shit bully. And because of that, because he was a chicken shit faggot coward who couldn't stick up for himself and stand up to bigger men than him, he would lash out at me, a little kid. And so that's why, as a grown man, I don't punch down. I don't fuck with little kids. I punch up. If this faggot Kolomoisky, whatever the fuck his fucking faggot ass name is, if this piece of shit wants to throw goons my way, no problem. I prefer to die with dignity than to watch what's happening. And why am I so adamant about this? It's very simple. You see, these thugs that are currently running Ukraine, and they probably essentially have Zelensky drugged up all the time so that they can control him easier. And so they can carry out these false flag operations, these attacks, drawing the fire of the Russians in such a way that it will inevitably lead to deaths among the Ukrainian civilian population and the destruction of Ukraine. See, these people have to be removed because they are going to lead to the destruction of Ukraine because the war is over. For all practical purposes, the Russians have already won. The Russians won, 4 or 5 days ago, okay? And now it's just basically, executing the win. It's over, okay? But these gangsters, these thugs, these truly evil people who have control of the government, well, these people, they are going to drag down Ukraine. They are rats pulling down the Ukrainian people, drowning them. And they will destroy Ukraine. And on top of that, some of them, some of the videos of them are just scary because they're insane. I mean, and I say this, I'm not saying this hyperbolically, okay? I'm not saying that they are crazy people. Like a lot of people in the West say that, Putin is crazy. No, he's not crazy. He's very, very sane, very, very rational. And what he did was completely rational. Had I been in Vladimir Putin's shoes, I would have invaded I would have invaded Ukraine maybe 4 or 5 years ago, at least. Frankly, I mean, that's how provocative so much of the last few years has been, okay? And so, and I'm saying this sincerely, and I do not mean any disrespect to the Ukrainian people, but looking at it cold-bloodedly, rationally, even-handedly, the provocations were too much, and the risk is too much. And so anyway, what's going on now is that these thugs, they want to prolong this war as long as possible because as long as the war is prolonged, they survive. And of course, to prolong this war, it puts civilian infrastructure at risk. The cities of Ukraine will be shattered. The people of Ukraine will flee or be killed. This will be a disaster for the Ukrainian nation. The war must end as quickly as possible because it's over. The war is over. It has been lost. And the fools in the West who keep cheerleading this war, who keep saying that, keep on fighting, I stand with Ukraine. You are encouraging people to continue fighting in a war that they cannot win. And we have seen what happens when people surrender to the Russians, like what happened in Kherson. The city of Kherson, a major city, a major port, surrendered to the Russians. And what did the Russians do? They let the city of Kherson continue raising the Ukrainian flag. They did not remove the mayor or any of the bureaucrats in the city. They organized humanitarian relief, help for the citizenry. Are the Russians saints? No, they did it for a very practical political reason, because they do not want to alienate the Ukrainian population. That's why they did it. It's not that they're saints, they're simply practical. Okay? But if practicality gets a good humanitarian result, fine. It doesn't matter the motivation. The result is what matters. And the Russians, for pragmatic political reasons of their own, have decided that they are going to treat the citizenry of Ukraine as gently as they possibly can because they do not want to have an antagonistic population. That's fine by me. If bad motivations lead to positive results, fine, you know. But the thing is, see, a lot of people think the converse, that, see, good motivations might lead to horrifying consequences, and that's acceptable. You know, the honor of Ukraine, we fight to the death, we fight to the last building and the last man and the last woman and the last child. It seems very noble, right? But the thing is, see, the people making these calls are rats. They're thugs. They're criminals. Kolomoisky and all his goons. Goons that he has lost control over, who have taken over the government. That's my belief at this time. And the evidence that I've shown you of these 3 individual cases, and you could say, oh, that's anecdotal. Dude, come on. You know, when you see people being assassinated and celebrated by the government, bureaucrats, mayors being assassinated, and the bureaucrats in the Ministry of the Interior celebrate it, it's not anecdotal. The government is criminal. The Zelensky regime is criminal. And that's a fact. And so we have to ensure that these criminals are expunged. Yes. Because these criminals, I mean, you see some of their videos and they're psychopaths. And these people do not care at all for the lives of the Ukrainians. If it means that 10 Ukrainians die so that they can live another day, they will do that. That's how evil these people truly are. They're criminals. They're thieves, murderers, rapists. They're the worst sort of people, and they are running the Ukrainian government, and the West is supporting these people. You who are in the West today, you are supporting a criminal regime, a literal criminal regime. This is what they are doing. They are throwing away the lives of Ukrainians so they can save themselves. And so I'm begging you who are listening to me, recognize what's going on. Don't be sucked in by this bullshit narrative. That's all smoke and mirrors. It's all bullshit. It's all lies. And we've seen these lies countless times. The ghost of Kiev, the 13 sailors, all the rest of it. The false flag operation, the provocation at the Zaporozhye power station. All of this leads to the same conclusion. These people will do anything to manipulate the West into joining in this war. And this war cannot be won by the West. Because the Americans and the Europeans, they don't care that much about Ukraine, but for the Russians, it's existential. They will go to the mat over Ukraine. They will go all the way, and they've said so. Vladimir Putin, on the very day that this invasion started, he said, any outside interference will be a declaration of war to Russia. He's not fucking around. He's a man of his word. And he says that, you do this and I'm going to fuck you up. He means it. And even if you beat him, it's going to cost you so much that is it really worth it? Huh? And that's quite aside from the fact that the Zelensky regime is not this squeaky clean, oh, they're so shiny and pretty and heroic and all this bullshit. No, they're criminals. Do you understand me? Hit +1 if you understand me. If you understand me, hit me +1. If you don't understand me, just wink out. Just drop the stream and go away. Because come on, man. I mean, it's so fucking obvious. Thank you, chat. I appreciate it. Because it's so fucking obvious that these people are the worst sort of people. And they've got to these positions of power by a series of events, by the ambition of an oligarch who wanted to be president and he got BTFO'd, and so he found a puppet in Zelensky, an attractive, good-looking, charismatic puppet, but a puppet nevertheless. And Kolomoisky is pulling the strings, and all of Ukraine is suffering because of it. And now Kolomoisky has clearly lost control, but he doesn't care. He's in Switzerland with his 3 passports. Maybe I'm pissed off because I only have two passports. Maybe I feel like less of a man. But at least my kids have three passports. Anyway, I mean, I have to get some levity into this because, it's just so depressing. I truly love Ukraine. I live here. They're lovely, lovely people. Mhm. And it so hurt me to realize and discover that many people in Ukraine consider me a traitor because of my realistic assessment of the Ukraine situation at the beginning of this war. It truly pains me. Mhm. Because I want only the best for Ukraine. I have no incentive. And quite frankly, like I said, I have two other passports of other countries that are not Ukraine. I can live anywhere. Okay? My Chilean passport has been called the Swiss Army knife of passports. I can literally travel to every country on the planet on my Chilean passport. Yeah, even North Korea. I looked into it. Yeah. It's a great, great passport, much better than the American or the British or the European. Mhm. Because I can go to places that Americans and Europeans can't. Iran, North Korea, Cuba, awesome, right? I don't need to live in Ukraine, is my point. But I like living in Ukraine. I like the Ukrainian people, even though I don't speak the language. They've always been so kind to me and so welcoming. I don't want to see them suffer needlessly. And especially, I don't want to see them suffer because they follow a regime of criminals. Because if they followed a government, a leader, or a group of leaders who were men of principle and honor and dignity, I wouldn't be making this live stream, quite frankly. I would say, yes, follow those leaders because they are decent, good, honorable men. And if that means, Ukraine is destroyed on a principle of moral dignity, okay. It's a huge price to pay, but I would understand it. But my terror is that Ukraine will be destroyed just to salvage some criminals, which I think is the worst fate imaginable for a nation, for a people, to suffer needlessly for criminals. And the empire of chaos, the empire of lies, the United States, is encouraging this, encouraging the prolonging of this conflict needlessly. I have children. If something happened to one of my children, my soul would die and never recover. I know that without a doubt. Okay? I think of a parent of a Ukrainian soldier, some 19-year-old boy, full of promise, full of life, to think of him dead in a ditch. And I've seen such videos and such pictures. And it just breaks my heart. I mean, I look at them and I want to tear my eyes out. I want to pull my hair. I want to scratch my face off. It's horrifying to see a young man dead for no reason whatsoever. It's horrible. As an older man now, because I'm middle-aged, I look at that loss, and it's a loss that cannot be articulated. I cannot explain how horrifying it truly is. And I hope, and I truly mean this, and I hope that you never experience such a loss. I pray to God that I never do. I would not survive it, quite frankly. And so I think of the mothers and the fathers and the brothers and sisters of such young men who die for nothing in this conflict. Because there's nothing to be won. It was a horrible, horrible miscalculation and deception by cruel people. And I've discussed them in other videos, and I will discuss it again in future videos. But I want you to understand that my intention is to avoid needless destruction and, most of all, avoid needless loss of life, especially of the flower of a nation. Because these young boys, these 19-year-old soldiers, they are the flower of a country. After World War I, France and Great Britain never truly recovered because they lost the young men of industry and energy and intelligence and talent. They were all thrown away, their lives thrown away in the First World War. And those two countries never recovered. And Germany, as we see now, has never recovered from World War II. And Russia itself was severely damaged by World War II. And it'll be something if it manages to survive over the next 70, 80, 100 odd years. Yeah, because it really is slipping. Mhm. And Ukraine, let's not even talk about Ukraine. The terrible tragedies that have befallen Ukraine. The three famines, because it wasn't just one. Everybody remembers the famine of 32, 33, but also the one in 21 and 25. Mhm. Ukraine has suffered horribly. Huh? And to suffer again a needless, prolonged war, something like Syria or Libya or Iraq, years, perhaps even decades of endless conflict that just destroys the entire country and kills off all the talented and good people or drives them all away. I want to avoid that. I don't want that to happen. I don't want that fate to befall Ukraine. If that makes me a traitor, if that makes me a Quisling, if that makes me a Putin apologist, fine. But that's my motivation. And that's why I did this live stream. And I'll continue to do live streams on this channel. Please subscribe to it. But I want you to understand my motivations, to understand it very, very clearly. I'm very serious about this. This is a hill that I'm willing to die on. And you who are my audience, I know that most of you are in the United States, in the West. And so take what I've told you. Don't believe what I said. Look it up. Look it up for yourselves. See if what I'm telling you is true. See if I'm lying to you. Look it up. Make up your own minds. And tell other people. If each of you tells just one other person, soon enough, they will tell other people and hopefully wind down this war. Because my terror, too, is at this time that this war, this invasion by Russia of Ukraine, might widen and become a horrible, horrible cataclysm for us all. Okay? And some here in the chat say that $25,000 in Bitcoin for Gonzalo Lira's location in Kharkov. I'm only worth $25,000? Jesus, man. I thought I was worth more. Take it easy, guys.